Hey, what is going on? Of course, to all of my alternative adult book snobs out there, it is me, your ultimate book snob critic, a nostalgia allure, and I want to welcome you guys back to Bookshade. Guys, today's episode is a very significant episode because you know why? It's Friday! No, that's not the only reason why, because it's Friday. But guys, I've been doing this Women's History Month readathon, and I have been enjoying it. There's been so many just interesting reads that I've been doing. And what I try to do is at least read 4 to 5 books a month, so I keep a good pace. But guys, this book today that I'm going to be doing my first ever, and this is a special edition, my Women's History Month book roast, where guys, I'm gonna be completely uncensored. I don't give a fuck, okay? And I'm gonna let you know the tea on whether these books are really worth your time to read, okay? So what we're gonna be doing today, guys, is I read the first book in the Argeneau series by Lynsay Sand. Okay, so a little bit more information on her. Look how well moisturized she is. This woman is beautiful. Yes, God. Okay, so Lynsay Sand, she is from Canada. So she is Canadian. She's the author of 30 books, guys. And she really kind of blends in with multiple subgenres within romance. Okay, so she does your standard kind of generalized romance, historical, contemporary, and the series that she is most known for that really kind of put her on the map really like that, to me personally, and how I found out about her, is her paranormal romance series that is called the Argeneau Vampire series. And what we're going to be doing for today's episode, guys, is we're going to be doing a review on the first book in the Argeneau series, and this is simply called A Quick Bite. Okay, because that's what it is. Okay, just the title, guys, it prepares you for the ratchetness of this vampire family. Okay, good God. So let me explain. So the book starts off with Lynsay getting her quick bite. Okay, she meets this douchebag. I don't know why. Look, even if you're a vampire, women, we sometimes do this to ourselves. Okay, why do we go for guys that we know are not good for us, that are complete douchebags? Okay, so she out and about and she sees this guy who later on you'll find out his name is Dwayne. He plays a little bit of a important role towards the later half, to more the end of the book. Okay, so she decides like, okay, I'm gonna get my 2-piece chicken right now, and starts drinking blood from him. Okay, because she's a vampire. Obviously, that's what vampires do. So she does the dumbest thing you could do. I mean, this is Vampire 101, okay? After you drink from, you drink the blood from your victim, you're supposed to wipe their memory so they have no recollection of what you are. And then, unfortunately, Lynsay makes the mistake of not doing that, okay? So that was mistake number 1, okay? Then the book kind of moves forward, and we have this other protagonist, because we have Lynsay and Greg. So Dr. Greg Hewitt, he's a psychologist that specializes in phobias. And Lynsay has a very, 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 very specialized phobia, which is totally hilarious considering she's a vampire. She actually faints at the sight of blood, which is hilarious to me, okay? So Greg decides, the smart decision of him, to hide in the trunk of someone's car. And the car happens to be Marguerite, who I love. Marguerite's like one of my favorite characters within the book. She reminds me, guys, of this like sassy, intense, sexy Sex in the City, like Samantha, a little bit conservative there in certain elements. But she decides to take Greg home as a birthday present for Lynsay. So guys, imagine this, okay? You're Lynsay, right? You get home, you're like, oh yes, I've worked a long, hard day, and then all of a sudden there is a man in your bed, like strapped down. I mean, would I complain? No, I'm being messy. But yeah, so Lysiana turns to her mother and it's like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's a present for you. And she's just enthralled by this. So like Greg is looking at Lysiana like, yo, seriously? Like, can I go home? You know, like if you're in that kind of uncompromising position, I mean, anybody, okay, would want to go home, right? So then you find out that for some reason, Lysiana cannot use her abilities on him. And the reason why is because Greg is Lysiana's what is called life mate. Okay, so in this particular realm of vampire romance literature, and this is the thing I think that really makes Lynsay Sand's this series stand out, is because the vampires in this series are like a cross between Interview with the Vampire and True Blood. So you have this contemporary like modernism to the vampire, but these vampires also have a scientific aspect to them, and that's because when you turn into a vampire in this particular series, you get nanomachines, like little like kind of micro nanomachines that flood your body, and that's what pretty much helps you to maintain your looks, you know, staying, you know, youthful, staying young, that kind of thing. Okay, so Greg is really enthralled by her, and right off the bat, guys, they get all hot and bothered. Now, I would say in regards to the heat meter of the sex scenes in this book, look, it is so light. Okay, this is no, you know, BDSM dark romance kind of stuff. I mean, it's very like it's like a mid steamy, well, no, I would say light steamy, honestly. On the lickable meter, I would probably give the sex scenes like maybe a 3.5 out of 5. It's not anything where you're just like, yes, God, you know what I mean? It doesn't, you know, it kind of made me menopausal, okay, in some parts, okay? But besides all that, though, the book in the beginning, like the first 5 chapters, it really sucks you in. It really gets you invested, you know, in the characters. Like Greg and Lysiana's, like the formation of the relationship is very compelling, and it feels really organic in some parts. But sometimes I felt that Lysiana and Greg fell in love too quickly. I mean, yeah, there's such thing as love at first sight, but this was a little bit too quick. I mean, it was literally like Lysiana looked at him and was like, yes, squad, you know? And I was just like, okay, you know? Not, you know, for me, do I like a little bit of slow burn? Yeah, a little bit of slow burn is good, not too much. But I think they fell in love a little bit too quick, like too quickly, though. But like I said before, Lysiana can't read his thoughts, so her mother is telling her like, oh, she, you know, or he could be your life mate. So a life mate is somebody who is pretty much your lover, your partner, your husband or whatever, wife, whatever. You can't hear their thoughts, and you can also use your charm ability to put them in like a hypnosis kind of state to control their mind. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really interesting element, that, you know, the person that you're supposed to be with is someone that you can't manipulate, which is very logical. So I do appreciate that. But the downside to a quick bite, though, is once you get past chapter 5, it really starts to decline. And then you get this just really boring conundrum where there's just so much historical explanation, which is good. You know, I'm not going to give away what the deeper conversations between Greg and Lysiana and kind of explaining why she is the way that she is. But there is an interesting thing with her. And this is funny for a vampire, right? She pretty much faints, guys, at the sight of blood. So the only way that she can like feed is she has to like close her eyes. I thought that was a nice touch. It really made the read more interesting to me. And I loved all the characters, okay? Like there's so many, like My other favorite I love is Thomas, because Thomas is just very like quirky, and he's always like jokingly pushing at Greg, you know, to be like, oh hey, you know, Lysiana's pretty hot, right? You know, so he's very tongue-in-cheek, Thomas. I really appreciate it. But it does have action too, but the action sequences, guys, things don't really start getting interesting until after chapter 16. From chapter 16 all the way up to chapter 22 in the epilogue, then it starts to get interesting. I appreciate the action. There's a little bit of action in there, and you just don't know what's gonna happen between Lysiana and Greg. But the one thing, guys, if there's anything you can take away from this book, oh my gosh, I love what Debbie and Lysiana have like a conversation, and she's bringing up Greg because Lysiana is still conflicted. She don't know if Greg is really her life mate or not. And Debbie said something, and I'm just paraphrasing it because I completely forgot. But she says something to the degree because she lost her husband. And, you know, that's why she's like working all the time, because, you know, when you lose someone you love, you just don't want to think about that. So you got to keep moving and keep, you know, living your life to the fullest that you can. But you still feel empty because, oh, hey, we got a Kappa. Hey, what's up? Yes, thank you for following. I appreciate it. And nope, Kappa, we not gonna have that. Nope, I don't tolerate anything being said to me that is derogatory towards my people. So you have a good day. So moving on from that foolishness. Okay. People want to be extra as fuck, but I'm not the one. Okay, get your life. But like I was saying before, Debbie says something to Lysiana that I thought that was very compelling. And she says, when it comes to love, you know, you never want that to slip away. You know, every moment that you have with someone, you know, is valuable and it's very precious. So you want to treat your relationship that way, you know. And Debbie, I think Debbie could tell that Greg really loves Lysiana. And what's really cool about Greg too is Greg is a psychologist and he specializes in phobias. So I'm not gonna ruin it for you because you definitely want to read it, because the gag of the century is at like the end. Like you find out the real reason of how everything went down, and it is sickening. Yes, God. Okay, so overall, guys, what do I think about Lynsay Sand's A Quick Bite, the first book in the Argeneau series? I think this is a good introduction to vampire paranormal romance literature. Is it the best I have read? No, because there are some things that are problematic with this book. There's a little bit too much character, like historical background detail. I think that if you're going to do a book like this and you want to have all that history, I think what she should have done is just made a secondary, kind of like a spin-off book that kind of goes through the whole history of, you know, it's still important that she has to, you know, the author, of course, Lynsay had to explain, you know, how these vampires came to be. But there's moments where there's just a lot of dry banter, and some of the jokes, it didn't really hit in that tongue-in-cheek way that I think she was trying to do. But I still would recommend this though. I say this book is semi-lickable. Okay, so there's ultimate lickable, semi-lickable, meaning that, you know, give it a try, and then is not lickable. So this is semi-lickable because it still has good components. I love Greg as a character, like just that unconditional, organic love that he has for Lysiana is very refreshing. So I really like this series. I really appreciate it, definitely. And there's over 20 books, guys. So I definitely, I was so interested in this series that I bought all of there's over 20 books, so I bought them all. So I'm going to continue reading it. But right now, my current book that I'm going to be reading for the next component of the Women's History Readathon, it's going on since the beginning of March all the way to the end of the month. There's also a Irish Readathon for those of you who are interested in Irish literature. So that's kind of going on the same time, but I picked the Women's History Month one first, and then I think next year I'll do the Irish history one, or the Irish American readathon, or Irish readathon. But yeah, I enjoyed the book. A quick bite. Yeah, you guys let me know if you have read this, if you love it, if you hate it. But it's a semi-lickable book. I mean, it does have a good, strong start, but then it kind of gets kind of humdrum in the middle, and then it redeems itself at the end. Like the ending was gaggerific for me. I was just like, wow, this ended in a way I was not I was not expecting it to end. So what am I reading next, and what I'm going to be reviewing next is I'm currently reading this Civil War interracial romance. Is between a woman named Georgia and I forgot the name of her love interest, but it's pretty much between a freed slave in a way and a slave master. So that's gonna be very interesting. It takes place in the later half of the 18th century, and I do appreciate it. It's called Civil Warriors by Tracy Ball. And I do appreciate that Tracy really did take the time to be historically accurate. So I appreciate that, because a lot of times in the interracial romance genre, and this is where it's really problematic, is a lot of times people don't do the accurate research like that. And then when you're reading it, it comes off very stereotypical. So I appreciate Tracy for really taking the time to kind of understand what was going on at that time period. But yeah, I cannot wait to finish reading that. It's about over 300 pages, but I already am at a good start. I'm like 3% done, so I'm gonna get it. And we're gonna talk. I think it's gonna be a controversial review, just because it's what they call a forbidden romance, because it's between a slave and a slave master. So I gotta explain some of the history in regards to those type of relationship, and give the reality to it as well. So alright guys, thanks so much for watching today's episode of Bookshade. You can keep in touch with me the following ways. I am on Instagram at Bookshade1, as well as at Bookshade1 on Twitter. Okay, so guys, like I always say, always enjoy the darkness of reading. I will talk to you guys coming up tomorrow.